to Momentum in Real Estate, your guide to success in the dynamic world of real estate. I'm Cory Wolf.
And I'm Kristin James. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned pro, we're here to help you reach new heights.
Success in real estate comes from learning, growing, and serving others.
Join us as we dive into strategies for lead generation, marketing, market trends, and client relationships.
Get ready to ignite your momentum and achieve your goals in real estate.
Let's dive in and unlock your full potential.
This is Momentum in Real Estate.
Meet Kim Porter, a dynamic realtor with a passion for people, a love of learning, and a deep-rooted connection to Bucks County, PA, where she's proudly lived for over 20 years. With a background in international finance at Bristol-Myers Squibb and a degree in paralegal studies, Kim brings a unique blend of analytical smarts and legal know-how to every transaction. Kim is all about clear communication, coaching clients through every step of the home buying or selling process, and making sure no question goes unanswered. Her goal is simple: empower her clients with knowledge and make the real estate journey smooth and successful. Welcome to the podcast, Kim.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you too. So tell us about your real estate story. Like, how'd you get into it? Tell us everything. Yeah, in your own words.
So as you know, I was with Bristol-Myers Squibb in international finance, having my second child, and I needed to take time off because I had a complication with the pregnancy. And after delivery, we decided we wanted to sell our house. And the real estate agent that was doing the transaction was not the best at communicating or the most informative. And at that time, I had to make a choice. Do I want to go back to work or get into real estate? Well, it wasn't really get into real estate or do something else, something that was more part-time. And from that, I realized during that experience that there needed to be an advocate for sellers and buyers that wanted for them to be know the full process. Right? Be a part of the full process and understand the process, because as a consumer, I was not aware of the entire process. However, because of my background, I did read the paperwork with completely, and reread it. And with that, I realized that there was some pieces of information that was not disclosed. And for me, I felt it needed to be disclosed, and that's why I got into this, because I wanted to be an advocate for buyers and sellers, and I wanted to educate them with the process. So that's kind of how I got into it, and it consumed me, and it's my life actually now. So
we understand that sentiment well. Give us a sense of your kind of brokerage experience. Have you been with the same brokerage the whole time? Have you bounced around? What's that been like for you?
So I was with my previous brokerage for 20 years. And I was happy, but I felt the vision was not moving forward in the industry. Obviously, it's ever evolving, and you need to be not only a realtor advocating for your clients, but you need to be in other avenues of this business with social media, communication, networking. And I felt the other office was not really in line with the future. So I decided to make a transition to a new location. And I've been here for 2 years.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So Kim, tell us, in your experience working with both buyers and sellers, like, what do you see as kind of some mistakes that buyers or sellers make, and how do you approach helping them avoid making those mistakes?
Well, for buyers, I feel that their emotions are so high during the process. They're not thinking logically. They're thinking more emotionally. And with that, their judgment can be somewhat clouded, right? So for me, I'm the center. I like to be the center of the transaction and to kind of guide them in the logical aspect of it. And I think that's something of, for me, I feel that that's an important skill for an agent to be able to be, not emotionally connected as much as you want to be. You have to be the advocate with the logic. You have to identify things that they're not seeing because they're so excited about the experience. So, and for sellers, it's not just about the data, but the stats and the data. But for me, with a seller, I have a plan, a strategic marketing plan, and just an outline of what they need to do. And they need to look at this again, their emotions cannot be involved because now we're trying to market their property, not their personal space, if that makes sense. And
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
feel that's the difference that I give versus other agents. I mean, I'm fully invested with them, but I try to remain impartial with my emotions in the process.
Yeah, because it's so interesting, right? Because people make decisions with emotion.
Mhm.
Like that's how they make decision, but it's so important to like bring yourself onto the logic board and understand like
Yeah,
what's
and that
going
took
on.
and it took a while. Like it really, like when I first got into this, I was just as emotional, and I realized to some extent, not that I wasn't doing them a service, but I needed to step back and look at this differently,
Mhm.
because I'm the advocate working for them, not in the thick of the emotions of it. So.
Yeah, it's so true. So do you work with relocation clients that are relocating a lot?
I do. I mean, I don't work as many of relocation clients, but I have. And I mean, for them, that's also somebody who can go into properties because they're not as readily available. And I think COVID's kind of changed the trajectory of how you sell real estate, especially to certain out-of-state buyers, right?
Mhm.
So when you're in there viewing that property on their behalf, you really want to fully not so much COSIM, but you want them to understand every aspect of the property, not just based on the seller's disclosure, but the little nuggets you're seeing being there when they're viewing it. So for me, like when I go into a property, somebody's walking through, but I'm paying attention, looking at the roof, looking at certain the molding to see if there's anything out of line or something's happening. So there's aspects that I like to look at when I'm with a relocation person, just to kind of point those things out.
Mhm. Yeah, it's great.
Well, Kim, you have, over 20 years of experience in the industry, in the business. What strategies do you think have helped you grow and then maintain a successful career in what I imagine is a pretty competitive market there?
Yes, it's very competitive. I think the strategies for me has just been being completely transparent. If there's if there's something that is not sitting well, or if there is some miscommunication, you want to address that in the beginning. And and you want your clients to feel, okay, this is the advocate for me, right? So I think it does matter. I find a lot of agents worry about the money of it, and you can't focus on the money. You have to focus on, these are people's lives, right? You're changing a life. So you have to look at it like that. I mean, yes, it's our jobs, and yes, payment, you do get paid, but this is about relationships, trust, communication. They're the values that make the difference in moving forward with people. And just allowing them to see, I mean, my business, a lot of my business is referral, my past clients and them referring business to me.
I was just gonna kind of dig into that a little bit more. Tell us more about your business. Like, how many clients do you juggle on a daily basis? And where do you get those clients from?
So I On average, I close about, as a single agent, about 50 to 60 transactions a year. And it
Awesome.
wasn't always like that, but the bulk of my business, I would say 80% is past clients. The other 20% is from different avenues, networking, being a part of the community, which I'm a big advocate for. I believe you should be so involved in your community, especially in your wheelhouse. So I used to be a part of Zillow, but I don't really do that anymore because I don't need to. So it's not, I think it's a great tool for, especially for new buyers that go into lead gen sites. But I think being a part of your community and getting involved and networking with local events is how you can cultivate and start the process.
So good. That's amazing. 50 to 60 deals a year. That's awesome. Even when we just like came through the hardest, toughest market since like what, 35 years or something.
I know.
That's awesome.
So, Kim, we have a pretty broad audience for our podcast. We have some, newer agents who are kind of in the process of kind of leveling up their business. We have seasoned agents. What advice would you give to an agent who's really looking to kind of gain some long-term success in their business, build a really sustainable kind of model? What have you learned that you would pass along to an agent like that?
So for me, I found not so much mentors, but other agents in the community that I respected and that I looked up to. I would connect with them and just have conversations with them. And there was one agent years ago where I used to handle all my own, the transaction, paper, everything. I did it all in comps, which was great in the sense of knowledge, but not for time, right? You just can't. And he said to me, you need to hire somebody. And I was so afraid of having that expense, but it was the greatest investment that I made, truly. And it's funny how you find business when you have somebody assisting you. So to me, I know a lot of agents think, well, I got to get a buyer's agent under my team, right? You, that's not what you need to do. You need to have somebody that's your administrative person that can alleviate all of that paperwork, calls, all the details that you don't need to get into, and you can focus on your business. And as fearful as it sounds, it's such an investment that's so worth it. And even if it's a part-time person, you'll realize I can generate so much more business if I'm not focused on all the other stuff.
That is so good. That's what we've heard in a lot of our mentorships and coaching too, because it's just, you don't have to form a team, just
No,
get rid and delegate the things that are important to you or not important, not that they're not
right.
important, but your time is better spent negotiating and learning
And being, yes, like driving the business in, that's what we should be doing as business owners.
yeah.
That's really our role. And I think that, especially starting off, you're not doing the volume that you want to do. But in order to get to that volume, you really do need to have an administrative person or operations person, someone who is like your right hand. And I think that was the best advice that I've ever had because it just made my business soar. It really did.
Well, and I think you hit on so many good points there that, yeah, as Corey said, we've kind of navigated some of that in our own businesses. But I feel like it's even just a whole mindset shift. I don't think agents get into the business thinking as a business owner. I think they think, oh, I'm gonna like go and I'm gonna help people, with one of the biggest financial transactions of their life. And they come in as from that support and like advocacy angle. But I think it's a transition that we all make at some point where we go, oh wow, I'm actually a business owner, and I have a responsibility to like grow a sustainable business in addition to serving my clients well, or like serving my clients is the path to a sustainable business. but
Yeah.
but often it's just this mindset shift, I think.
Well, it is. And it's also the way you structure your business too. So, I mean, having an operation person does matter, but also your you have to treat it as a business. And I think a lot of agents go in this and they get a paycheck and they get their check and they just spend it. They don't realize they have to break it down, right? So you take that and you just immediately you have to set yourself up with a business account, right? I think a lot of people just commingle their money and it just never seems to work for them. They're always chasing. But if you learn how to and with this, I mean, not that I say a business class, but even getting involved in some type of classes, and there's free resources. There's a source called Score here that helps small business owners, entrepreneurs starting off their path and teaching them how to structure their business, to take funds and put it into account for their taxes, to think of quarterly taxes because you're 1099, right? So you get your check and you think, oh, I could spend it. Well, no, as you grow, you have to learn to structure it's like a pie. You got to take certain slices and put it towards reinvesting back in the business, your taxes, your expenses, and then you have your play money. That's the way you really need to think. But a lot of us don't do that in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Now, Kim, how many kiddos do you have?
I have two.
Oh, that's
Not kids
awesome.
anymore, but
How old are they?
my daughter is 28 and my son is 24.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a younger mama, like meaning I've got a 3 and 6 year old.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I just would love to hear, and I know there's lots of moms out there listening too. Like, how do you juggle mom life and realtor life?
It's it's a lot for a young mom. And I remember being in the car with my kids, like shushing them in the background because I'm talking to a client. You have to learn how to navigate that with balance. And we're in an industry where they instant like people just want to be connected regardless. And it's like you almost feel like you don't have the time to spend with your family because soon as you sit down to do something with your family, that deal that you were waiting for weeks now came to fruition and you're like, oh my, you're just crazed. But you have to find balance. Like you have to learn how to say, hey, I'm going to get back to you on that. Or, hey, I'm involved in something at the moment, but can I get back to you? You have to learn not so much to say no, but to learn how to pause it and know and give the confidence to your client. I will be back with you, but I have something I'm dealing with or I'm doing at the moment. You have to make time to navigate properly, not, I think for us too, as moms, we get so worked up and our emotions are so high. And then when you get that call with a client, you're in a space that you need to like take a breath before you take that call, relax, and then deal with whatever is in front of you. I think a lot of times that we're so used to running and unfortunately, even with other women, like sometimes there's no band, like women need to stand together, like they do. They need to be supportive of each other. And, I know that's not so much a mom thing, but I think if we work together and be understanding of their life, we can navigate this together beautifully.
I love that, Kim. And I'm curious, just kind of personally, did you learn to set and establish boundaries out of like principle, like maybe coming out of a professional, job before you got into real estate, maybe that helped a bit? Or did you kind of have to learn the hard way of like getting burnt out, or like making your family life stressed, or which approach was it for you that kind of helped you get to a place where you have healthy boundaries?
Well, it's funny because I worked, I worked at a company which was an amazing, Bristol Myers Squibb was amazing, but it was international in the department I worked in, so it was all hours a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I decided not to go back was because, oh, I don't want to be dealing with that, working all hours. But I hopped right into it in a different, as an entrepreneur. So it wasn't like I really, so navigating through took some time. But I think as my kids got older and I was missing events, I was starting to get a little angry. And especially, I'm grateful for my husband for stepping up in this. But I was like, okay, he's getting to experience everything I want to experience. But I'm out there, working as an entrepreneur and can't get the time. So I was starting to get a little resentful. So then I just said, okay, I have to learn how to balance. And it's not that simple, right? Like, let's be honest. You say you're going to do it and something comes up and you don't, but you have to stick to it. And it takes time to learn how to structure your day and your life. It's consistency, right? That's what really makes the difference. Learning to just step back, learning to give yourself a break, learning how to not make yourself feel bad because something didn't work out. Learning how to just say, okay, it's okay. At the end of the day, it's really okay. And I think that's what happened over time. It progressed. Now it's not every time, but you have to start somewhere.
Golly, it's so true. And like, I think about when you put those boundaries in place, how can you listen to them? And oftentimes it's like, for me, it was turning off my notifications, like putting my phone in the other room while I'm with my children, like those little things can make such a huge impact. Or while I'm on a date with my husband, like don't bring my phone into the restaurant, that kind of stuff. Like it's so hard to pull yourself away from this business because you
Mhm.
are an entrepreneur and you are bringing money home to your family, So it's just,
Right.
yeah, it's just really interesting, but you have to learn how to do it. Otherwise, you'll burn yourself out immediately.
Mhm. Yeah, and you do sometimes. You have to learn to also forgive yourself, right? Like be okay with it. Okay, so it happens, but it's the being able to be okay with it is, I think, what most of us struggle with, and we start beating ourselves up about it. And that's not the healthy mindset because that's just going to put you in that rabbit hole. And that's where I think, especially for moms, they need to start being okay and accepting themselves. It's okay. You're not going to have it all. And sometimes you will, but it's the big picture you got to think about. Why are you doing this, right? You got to bring it back. Why am I doing this?
Mhm.
I'm doing this for these people that I'm like running around like, oh, I can't take it. But
Well, it seems pretty clear, Kim, like that you have an approach that has kind of allowed you to build great relationships with your clients, and I'm guessing like ensures a lot of repeat business and referrals. Anything you would kind of speak to about kind of how you approach relationships so that you do kind of have more confidence in getting some repeat business?
I think part of it is, so when you're going into learning how to read the room, right? Learning how to read your clients. And again, learning to be impartial. For instance, in a divorce relationship, you do hear both sides, and it can get heated and it can get intense. So for you, being empathetic is where you need to be, but not necessarily siding with one or the other. And I think with that is we all can learn from that. I think a lot of people, again, they they allow their emotions to get involved, whether it's bad or good. When you have that client that is just heated up about something, they start taking it personally. And that's where us as entrepreneurs, agents, we need to step back and remember, what is this all about? Right? What are we doing? Even with other agents, I always say, yes, we're advocating for each side, but we're a team working together with the same goal, right? That's what we're all doing. We're working together as a team to get the same result. So let's figure this out instead of trying to fight each other. So I think that's important. And I think if you learn that in the beginning, it does make a difference.
Well, it makes a huge difference because also if you start working with those agents and, being kind to each other, it has turned into I'm sure for all of us, has turned into additional leads, those people get out of the business or something like that. You just have to, you have to work together in
Yeah,
all aspects.
yeah, and working together in the sense where I think pride needs to take a step back in this relationship. I think a lot of people think with their pride or their ego, and it's not about your ego. It
Or,
really isn't. It's about the end result,
or
right?
like principal, I feel like principal gets in the way quite a bit. Like,
But principle does have a standard, but
right.
ego, I think a lot of people in this business are very ego driven. And I think for some people, especially, people just starting off, feel, I don't want to say inferior, but feel like maybe they don't have the same knowledge, but they do. It's just this person's ego's taken over, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and again, it like full circle here. It almost brings you back to, the logical brain and the emotional brain, when they get ego in the way, the emotional brain comes online and you're like, "Oh, we can't talk logic anymore."
I mean, some of those agents that call you and they're just saying what they're saying, and you're like, okay, I need to rewind here and not let this, it's not about them, it's about this.
Yeah.
You have to kind of like bring it back. So,
Yeah, so true.
Well, Kim, this has been a really great conversation, and I feel like you've offered so many kind of words of wisdom for us and for our listeners and audience. So I'm grateful for your time, and I just feel like you have such like a calming presence. Like I can see how like clients would love working with you, and I mean, it's just like a whole vibe. So I
thank
love
you.
it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So awesome. I agree. Well, thank you so much for your time, Kim, and we look forward to continuing to stay in touch.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Momentum in Real Estate. We hope you found valuable insights and strategies to propel your real estate journey forward.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us continue to deliver content that resonates with you. Remember, success in real estate is about continuous learning, growth, and serving others. Keep that momentum going and watch your business thrive.
Until next time, keep pushing forward and bringing your real estate dreams to life.
This is Cory Wall
and Kristin James signing off from Momentum in Real Estate.